guys. Okay, I'm editing, and before we get started, my camera was 100% crooked on my tripod, and it's very obvious. I usually can get my camera to look pretty straight on here. For some reason, I just could not get it straight. Like, it's not something, like the extension I have is not something that just sits flat and straight the whole time. It's adjustable, so sometimes if it gets adjusted a different way, it's difficult to get back to straight. And apparently I had a really hard time with it, which I did. I struggled to try to get it, and it still is not straight. So I apologize. I need to work on it. Usually it looks pretty good, but like for some reason, this one today was just like terrible. So sorry. No, my bookshelves are not crooked. I promise. It's just me. Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today we are going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of May. Now, technically, I read 8 books, but I'm only going to talk about 6 today because there are going to be 2 books that are part of a secret reading vlog that will be coming up on Saturday for you guys. I just have to do my last clip because I just finished my last book. So I will be wrapping up 3 books in that, and I didn't want to talk about them ahead of time. I want it to be a surprise still. So I'm going to save those for the vlog where I will wrap them up there. But I do have 6 books that I read as well that I will talk about today. And I can't even give you all the star ratings because some of them are 5-star predictions, which is good. It's very good. I hit my goal of how many I wanted to read, but I'm just going to save those star ratings for my wrap up. But the first one was a 5-star prediction, and that is The People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, which was one of my book of the month books because that is our theme for our 5-star predictions this round. And this follows Poppy and Alex, who are best friends. They met in college. They have been best friends for years and years and years. And they started this tradition where they take summer vacations together. Every summer they will go and they will travel together. It's something that kind of organically became part of Poppy's job because she became a travel journalist. So she ended up being paid to go to all these luxurious places and to write about them while she was there. And then she would always be able to take him with her. And so they started this whole tradition where they go together. And something happens at one of these places and it ruins their friendship, completely ruins their friendship. They no contact. They are not talking anymore. And Poppy hits a point in her life where she just needs him. She needs to be happy again. And she's realizing the last time I was happy was when I was on vacation with Alex. That's when I was happy. So she reaches out to him and says, can we do this again, please? Can we please give this another try? And he agrees to do it. So they go on another summer vacation together. And so I'm going to leave it at that. And this jumps back and forth. So you start in the present and you start with, what Poppy's going through right now and her reaching out to him. And then every other chapter, you're going back to a different summer, and it's a different summer every time. So you kind of get the story of what happened on all of their summers leading up to that one summer that stopped everything. Okay, so I'm not going to give you my star rating yet, but I will say I loved it. The next book that I picked up was actually a graphic novel. I went to my library. Well, I put these on hold, actually. I put the next 3 volumes of this graphic novel series on hold because I wanted to continue with it and I didn't want to lose my momentum on it. So I went ahead and grabbed the next 3, and I read volume 2 during the month of May, and then I plan to read 3 and 4 for June as well. They're sitting on my nightstand. But that is Saga. So I read volume 2. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It was really good. This series is really good. It is a science fiction series that follows almost a Romeo and Juliet type thing where there are 2 people who are 2 different species and they have fallen in love. However, they are not supposed to be. Their species are at war, actually trying to blow up planets and stuff. So they're not supposed to be together, and they end up having a child, which happens in the very beginning. And so this child is now being hunted, basically, because it is a mix of 2 different species, and that's a big no-no. So really love it. Very adult, very gory, very gruesome, very graphic, very sexual, all the things. So just know that going in, but I have really enjoyed it. And I'm not a big graphic novel person, but this is one that I could definitely, I'm going to read this whole thing for sure. So volume 2 was read. And there was a storyline in this one that follows Marco's family and his father in particular, and I really enjoyed that part. This next one was another 5-star prediction and book of the month, and that is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. We did a big group read of this on Instagram with a bunch of people, and it was a ton of fun. And this is the book that Lindsay, Tia, and I decided to all pick together from Book of the Month and read it. And doing it with a whole bunch of people was fun because I liked seeing other people's perspectives on it. Now, this one is a historical book, and it's set in London, and it's dual timeline. So you get a present timeline, and then you get a timeline from the 1700s. The present timeline follows Caroline, and she is on her anniversary trip, she's from the United States and goes to London for this trip. And she ends up finding herself on a beach doing what they call mudlarking, where you're kind of digging for treasures in the mud. And apparently this is a really popular spot where a bunch of random things, can wash up onto the shores from the Thames River, and you never know what's going to pop up. So she decides to go on this little excavation, if you will, and she finds something that was very interesting to her. And she starts trying to do some research on it and trying to see if this means anything, what kind of significance it has. It's kind of unique. So she spends some time trying to research that. She meets a librarian who really helps her with her research, and they strike up a friendship, which I thought was amazing. That was one of my favorite parts, is the way that she and this librarian built a connection and a friendship through this. And then you also go back into the 1700s, where there is an apothecary named Nellie, and she has a very secretive business, but word is making its way around between women only, that Nellie can concoct any type of poison, if you will, that can take the life of someone, mainly a man, who is making your life difficult and who you can't get away from, or who is abusing you. And she can make it basically look like something natural happened. So no one knows that it was a poison, and no one knows that it was you. So she has created this business for herself. And you get a couple different perspectives from the 1700s, which I thought was really interesting. And you follow some of the women who have gone to Nellie and what their reasons were, and what happens from there. And then you go back and forth between that and Caroline in the present, and she's trying to piece all these things together too. So again, can't show you my star rating, but loved it. The next one that I read was Warp by Lev Grossman. This was a NetGalley book that's on my Kindle, and I listened to this on audiobook. And let me figure out the narrator. Hang on. Okay, so the audiobook narrator is Kirby Hayborn, but Lev Grossman also does narrate a portion of it. There are little pieces throughout it that sound like almost a tape recording, and that's Lev Grossman talking. And they're just little snippets here and there throughout it. So that was kind of interesting. But I will say I gave this book 1 star, guys. It was not a good book. And it was short. It was more of a novella, I would say. I think it was a little bit less than 200 pages, but it was so weird. I think it was dystopian. It seemed like it was a dystopian. And it follows 20-something men who are, I don't even know what they're doing. I know they talk about women a lot and sex a lot and women's bodies and their exploits and stuff. And that's all I got from this book. I don't know what happened with the world. I don't know why they were fighting the government. I don't know. And it was very, very strange. It was just like, I don't know what the point of this book was. It was really just a bunch of pretentious young men who were, probably in dire situations, but still talking about sex. So congratulations. What was the point? I didn't understand it. And I listened to it. I paid attention. I was paying attention the whole time. It was a very short audiobook. I was able to do it in one day. But I finished it going, what was the point of that? I really, truly don't get it. So I gave it 1 star because I didn't think it was necessary. And the next one that I read is another Kindle book, and this was actually the buzzword book that I picked for the month because the buzzword for this month was house. And I read The House of Salt and Sorrows, and this was by Aaron A. Craig. So this was a NetGalley book, and I've had this on my NetGalley for, since before that book came out. So I've had it for a while. And this is basically a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and it follows a family who lives on this island, and there are 12 daughters. However, their family has pretty much been viewed as cursed. I don't want to say they're cursed, but they're viewed as cursed because their mother passed away. And then a bunch of the sisters started passing away too. It kind of started with some of the older ones, and it's kind of working its way down a little bit. And nobody knows why. There are speculations as to if they were accidents or if some of them took their own lives. They don't really know. Some of them were staged to look like they took their own lives, and then some of them were not quite so obvious. And it's something that our main character is trying to figure out because she's afraid for the rest of her sisters and for her family and for herself, for her own safety as well. She just wants everyone to stay alive and to stay safe. Meanwhile, the oldest sister, who is set to inherit her family's estate and, her father's position, she is really worried that she's not going to be able to find a suitor because everyone believes that they're cursed and no one will come near them. So she's having a really hard time with that as well. And they discover a door on their island that they never knew existed that can take them anywhere they want to go. And they use this door to take them to different castles and different lands to go to balls so they can start meeting some suitors where people don't know them. And they're hoping that that is going to, help them to be able to marry and do all that without having this big stigma of a curse behind them, if you will. So that is what that's about, basically. And in the opening of the book, there is one of the sisters passes away, and our main character is trying to figure out if she was killed or if she killed herself. So there's that happening as well. So she is also all along this way trying to find out what happened to her sister and what's happening to her family and why is this happening and all that stuff. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. That wasn't too much. There's a whole lot else that is happening behind the scenes and a whole lot of other characters that are coming in and stuff. So I'm going to leave that a mystery. But I did really enjoy this. It got pretty creepy, which I was not expecting, and I really enjoyed. And it did keep me guessing. There was probably one part, maybe like a little more than halfway through, that it started to get a little bit like, okay, can we get back to this aspect of it though? And then it did. So I was happy about that. So there was probably like one part in the book that lulled for me a little bit, but the writing was great. It was very atmospheric. And I did really, really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star read, but it was just, I really enjoyed it, and it was a nice surprise. So yeah. Okay, and the last book that I finished is another 5-star prediction, and that is The Push by Ashley Audrain. This book is incredibly heavy. This is a very, very heavy book. So if you pick this up, be ready to just be hit up the head with a lot of really hard topics. There's going to be a ton of content warnings, which I'll share in a second. And I had to write them down as I was reading because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. But a lot of content warnings in here. This follows 3 generations of women who are mothers in the same family, and none of them really should be. We're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna leave it at that. The majority of the book is set in present day with our main character Blythe and her daughter Violet and their relationship. And then you also get snippets of Blythe's mother and her grandmother as well, and kind of how they were raised and all that kind of stuff. So you see a pattern happening, if you will. But it is very, very heavy, and it took me a little bit longer to read than I thought because I had to kind of gear myself up to pick it up because I knew that it was just going to be a lot of emotions and a lot of like, whoa, man, like, wow. And it was. So I couldn't binge read it. It was a little bit too much for me to do that, but I did, it was still very, very, very good. But let me give you all the content warnings. So we have a content warning for suicide, postpartum depression, death of a child, miscarriage, self-harm. What else? Infidelity. I think that might be it. Oh, I would say like drug abuse, like pills and stuff like that. So that's in here as well. So a lot of things happening in this book, but I will definitely go into more detail about it when I do my wrap up for my 5-star predictions. But yeah, heavy one on this one. Okay, guys, that is it. Those are the books that I read in May that I can talk about right now, but I will have a couple more coming up this weekend that you'll see. I just want to keep those a surprise, but yeah, so it was a good reading month. I did feel a little bit slumpy a little bit, and then I was able to kind of read a few short things, which helped and kind of helped me get my motivation back. And now I'm like 100% back into reading mode again for sure. So I'm happy about that. But let me know what you read in May. Let me know if you read any of these. I would love to know your thoughts. And I will see you guys again very soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.